So we have Mr. Cote, who some of you may be aware, he wrote a story, a short story, right? Yep. That is actually being turned into a major motion picture, and he's working with Sydney Sweeney, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to talk all about the experience and all what's going on with the making of this film. So let's give him, hold on, let's give him a round of applause for coming.
Oh, I like that. That's
Every
good.
teacher should have one of these. And I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Cote. We will have questions afterwards, okay? So, all right. You have a question right now?
Are you going to be subbing in Mr. York's class today?
Oh, is he absent? Uh-oh.
All right, so I'll let him take over. Is that good enough
Am I
introduction?
just sharing the whole thing? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to start talking to them
Cool.
about the experience, and
Yeah,
then
sure.
we can go from there.
Cool. Well, hello, everyone. And I'm sure I've already talked to a bunch of you, if not all of you already, about this, but I'll tell it as though I haven't. 5 years ago, during the COVID pandemic, I sat down and wrote this short story in like a few days, which is a rare thing. I feel like a lot of the times there's just so much plotting and writing and hating what I wrote down and then starting over and scrapping the whole thing all together. And if you write it all or do anything creative, you understand. But this story, the missing girl story, I wrote it out in like a few days. I woke up, sat down at the kitchen table, wrote it down, started writing, for hours straight, went to bed, woke up, did it again. Finished it, posted it, and stopped thinking about it. I certainly never expected to be where I'm at right now. I posted it on Reddit I think I wrote a no-sleep version first and then revised it a little bit and posted it on the short stories subreddit. On a place where there are so many stories, people post there all the time. And so if I'd had even a handful of likes and comments on this thing, I would have been so happy. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting dozens of likes. Now it's up at 50, 100, 200, 300. And if you go and look at this particular subreddit, the short stories one, stories there don't get a lot of attention, really, because there's just so much. If you see one on there that has 10 or more, read it. It's probably pretty good. So, when my phone's blowing up and now I have hundreds of likes, I'm like, what is going on? I think I benefited a little bit from the fact that it was during the quarantine. I like to think that the story was okay. I think it was good. But I definitely benefited a lot from the fact that there were probably more readers than normal. But then I stopped thinking about it. What a cool thing. Something I wrote now sits at the third most liked story all time on that subreddit. I had number 1 and number 3. And funny enough, this one that's being turned into a movie was number 3. It wasn't even number 1. Anyway, there's my lame sell to go read the other one. Although now, actually, I think it is the missing girl story is number 1. Anyway, how cool. I created something, people actually read it and liked it, and I would engage with the comments, and for me, that honestly was more than enough. I really never thought that anyone would read anything that I wrote. Flash forward 4 years later, I get a message on Reddit from a guy claiming to be a Hollywood producer. Yeah, that's legit. That's not a scam. And I ignored it completely. And so this man messaged me again and said, hey, just checking in, seeing if you got my last message. I'd like to connect and talk to you. So I remember saying to my girlfriend, all right, as long as I don't give him my social security number or anything, I'll respond. And so I responded and actually rejected him, right? It wasn't enough to ignore him. I told him, I'm a public educator. I'm in no position to have any sort of representation on my writing right now. Thank you. Because this is a known kind of scam too, where agents will reach out to you and you have to pay them. Oh, we'll represent you. We'll get you published. You just got to pay me this amount of money. And it does happen. And I've actually had those messages come in before. So I reject this guy, and he says to me, just trust me, you're going to want to get on the phone with me. Now, meanwhile, picture me, I'm at school. I'm going about my regular life. I was a middle school teacher in Haverhill, Mass, at a school called Nettle Middle School. So, meanwhile, picture me in my regular life. I'm Googling this guy's name. He's a real guy. I'm Googling his company, the production company. Also real. But it doesn't prove to me that it's not one of you guys on the other end of the screen just messing with me, right? Anyone could be claiming to be this guy. So he gives me his phone number, and then that night we hop on a Zoom call, and holy, it's the guy. And I'm in shock. We talked for 2 hours, that very first conversation. I don't think I spoke for any of it, hardly any of it. He just was explaining to me who he was and what he's doing and how he feels about the story and what it could be, and my head's just spinning while I'm sitting on my couch eating my little bag of pretzels for dinner because, I'm still a public educator. And I remember getting off the call, and it was like I'd been holding my breath the whole time. I just could finally breathe, but I still couldn't grasp what was happening. And then months went by, and I'd barely heard from him. He'd check in once in a while, but there was hardly any communication after that, and I thought, wow, I really got duped. I let myself actually believe that something this awesome was happening to me. And then he hit me up, like I said, months later. I want to say it was August or September. And it was like no time had gone by at all. He said, hey man, still interested? I was like, yes. I said, great. And then within weeks, he says, oh, people are very, very interested. We have more producers on board. Okay, cool. And now this is all happening while I'm starting my time here with you guys. I moved here over the summer. This is my first year here at DHS. So obviously my life is already taking a new chapter of its own, right? Just being here, going from a middle school to a high school, just moving in general, which is awful and stressful. And then now, meanwhile, I have this thing happening in the background of my life. I have this Hollywood producer. Now he says, oh, I want to be your manager. I'm going to be your manager now. I got this. Okay, deal, great. The day he called me, maybe October or something, and told me that, hey, we have an A-list actress who read the story. She likes it. Okay, who is it? And he told me. He said, it's Sydney Sweeney. I said, no way. I said, yeah. He said, she's going to read it and then let us know. I said, okay. He called me not long after that. Mid-laughter. He's already laughing. I pick up the phone. She agreed. What? Are you kidding me? And needless to say, from that point on, it's been a complete whirlwind. This whole thing has just taken off. Now we have this person interested in maybe directing, and also this actor or this actress, these producers, and some pretty big names that many of you guys would probably know, just expressing their interest. And again, I'm just waking up, going to Cumbies, getting my coffee and sandwich, coming here and going to class with you guys. It was surreal, and continues to be surreal. A couple weeks ago, this whole thing finally sold. We struck the deal with Warner Brothers. We have an Oscar-winning screenwriter adapting my story, right? This man who's written Forrest Gump, right? Won an award for Forrest Gump. A Star is Born, Dune, Part 1. Have you guys seen that? He wrote that movie. So that man, that very, very talented writer, has to look at my little short story and adapt it into a movie. It's insane, and I still can't believe that it's happening. And then when the articles came out, Deadline and Hollywood Reporter. And then from there were other articles that I didn't even know about. I have friends texting me, friends of friends, reaching out and saying, hey, just saw this article. Hey, just saw this TikTok. And I can't keep up with it. And it's awesome. I'm super grateful. I mean, what a problem to have. It's definitely a little overwhelming, but I'm enjoying every bit of it. It's kind of freaky reading comments on articles or posts and stuff about me and about my writing and about this whole thing. It's strange to see. There are definitely times where I feel the urge to reply. There have been times where you ever do that thing where you start typing and then you're like, that's not worth it, and you just delete. Because yeah, there's a lot being said, and most of it is fantastic support. Some of it is just so confidently incorrect, and it's fascinating. But yeah, I was on Fun 107 last week or so, and they were amazing. I was on Kiss 108 earlier this week. I went on to WGBH, all sorts of stuff. I had some other phone interviews and stuff. It's wild. It's just I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate. I'm super excited. Another key thing that I left out with this deal with Warner Brothers is I get to be an executive producer on the film, which is awesome. Ask me what that means, because I don't know. I actually have no idea what that even entails. But I'm very, very excited. And any of you guys out, that are writers yourselves, that would like to chat about your writing or ideas or anything like that, I would love that. I mean, really, stop me at any point in the hallway, anywhere, shoot me an email, whatever you want to do. Because I genuinely love this stuff. I'm that annoying person that pauses the TV show on Netflix to vent and rant to my girlfriend about what they just did and how awesome it is. So anyway, I love talking about this stuff. So yeah, that's my crazy story of how this all happened.
Wait, do you want to take questions now?
Yeah, sure, anything. Yeah, I don't know what else
All
to
right,
say.
so we got to use the mic so we can hear you guys. So hold on. I think, Michael, did you have a question first?
It wasn't a question.
Hold
it was
on.
a statement.
Oh, statement. All right. Hold on. Kylie has a question.
So how long have you been writing stories and stuff before you wrote this one?
That's a good question. It's funny because I hadn't been writing a whole lot before this. My main focus creatively used to be music. I sing and play piano by ear. I used to post singing videos on YouTube. I haven't done it in a year or two. But that was my thing. That was kind of, that was the old dream. I wanted to be a musician or a singer of some kind. And I dabbled a little bit. I'd post, I think I had posted a story or two on Reddit, but honestly, not a lot. Not a lot of experience in writing. And so that's why it's so funny to me that years later, this thing that I posted, and it's okay. I actually now have a longer and revised version of this story, by the way, that if you're interested, I would much prefer to send you that one. But yeah, I just wrote this thing out and just posted it and said, all right, well, let's see what people think. Let's see if I kind of have the ability to do this a little bit. So yeah.
Another question.
Do you know any of the other actors and actresses that are going to be a part of the movie, or can you not share that?
So, no, I don't. I know Sydney and her production team are producing it. She's starring in it. And I mentioned that screenwriter, Eric Roth. But no, we sold this to Warner Brothers just with that package alone. There were other names that were involved at one point or interested, but I won't share that. But there were some pretty big names that were floating around for a while. But as of right now, that's all who's attached.
When do you think this movie will be coming out?
If I had to guess, probably not for a couple years, 2, 3 years, I don't know. So right now, the script needs to be written. There's no script yet. So Eric Roth, who's writing it, he'll be doing that next. And once that script exists, that's when things will be greenlit and picked up, and we'll go from there.
Are they gonna let you appear in the movie?
I would love that. I'll take anything. You know, if they need some like coffee worker in the back of the diner or something that just comes up and pours for a cup of coffee or whatever, I don't care. I'll be a dead body on the ground if I have to. Yeah, I would love it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Let's have at least one question from everyone. That's counting as you do now.
Oof.
All right, who wants to go next?
Who was like the initial producer that hit you up?
Good question. So his name is Aaron Folby. He works for a company called Underground. He's now my manager as well.
What inspired you to write this story in the first place, or just like a random story that you wrote?
That is a good question. So a couple things. I've always been interested in true crime, particularly missing person stories. There's something really fascinating to me about the fact that people can go missing in present times, right? We're all basically carrying trackers in our pockets. So yeah, I've always had a fascination for missing person stories in particular. And then even more so, Gillian Flynn, her novels, she wrote Gone Girl, Sharp Objects, Dark Places, very, very good. I remember, so actually this is an interesting story because you think about these like quick little decisions that you make and how it can change the course of your life in ways that you would never imagine when you're making these decisions. And here's an example of that. In 2014, I think the movie Gone Girl came out, a movie based on Gillian Flynn's novel, and I wanted to go see it. And my dad made a comment, "Isn't that a book?" I said, "Yeah." And I'm a reader. I will read the book first typically, but I said, "Yeah, but I kind of want to go see it like tonight." And he said, "Oh, I'm surprised you feel that way." I didn't go that night, thank God. Next morning, I wake up, my dad bursting in my room, tosses a book at me, Gone Girl, and he said, "Read it." All right. I was blown away by the book, so much so that I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to write just like that. The way that I felt reading that story, all the twists and turns and the thrills, I so desperately want to make you guys feel that way with my writing, and that's why now I'm taking my writing more seriously. But yeah, imagine I hadn't seen the commercials for the movie, or I hadn't said that to my dad, or he hadn't happened to stumble upon the book at CVS or something. But anyway, Gillian Flynn, huge inspiration. If you guys like thriller type stuff, mystery type stuff, definitely read those.
Actually, we're about to go see, we're going on a field trip to the Providence IMAX theater to
Oh, cool.
see the new movie coming out, The Amateur.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Cool. That's
Looks
awesome.
pretty good. So it's kind of like in that thriller sort of genre.
Yeah.
almost. Thriller action.
Do you need any more chaperones?
We might. Yeah, we might.
Let me know.
So you said that you came out with like a more edited version. Are like the writers gonna like let you like use that one to adapt it into the movie, or are they gonna make you do the original?
So I wish they would. Technically, the piece that I sold to Warner Brothers is the version on Reddit, the original short story. Again, being an executive producer on the film, I don't know if I have any sort of say in anything or what that even means. I would like to. I think that what I did with it is better. Again, I wrote this at a time when I wasn't really very serious about my writing. And in that time, since I've written more, that's key, just doing the writing and learning the craft that way. I've read books on writing, I've listened to podcasts, just really trying to learn more about the craft overall, and I think I'm much better now than I was 5 years ago, and will hopefully be better 5 years from now than I am today. So yeah, I hope so. If you guys, if you want to read that version instead, definitely let me know. I'll happily send it to you. It's just sitting on my computer.
Do you know the process of how they're going to adapt that writing at all, like in terms of changing it for screen?
No, I definitely left room on both ends of the story. There's plenty to expand before the story starts and after, where I left it off. And I trust Eric Roth. I mean, the guy's one of the best writers out there right now, so.
Was the stories that you wrote before that also about missing people, or did you write about different things?
No, so the stories before were a little different. Still in the thriller type genre. I have one, the one that had more likes and comments on the short story subreddit was about a teenage boy, a high schooler, whose sister he was certain was a complete sociopath and that no one else saw it. She played her part well. And as that starts to kind of finally become obvious to people in her life, the mom desperately seeks out this doctor who has this chip that he can put in her brain to fix her, to make her normal. But then it's one of those like, well, is she better or not? That kind of thing. Still thriller type, but not missing person stuff. And then I had another story before that was kind of a like a horror ritual-y kind of thing. Yeah.
Do you have rights over it anymore, or did you kind of give those away when you sold it? Can they just change it without, or do they need to get permission?
That's also a really good question. You guys are crushing it. I do have rights to the original story. I also have the right to write the novel or publish this longer revised version that I have. I also will maintain rights if there's any other adaptation that comes of it. So say there's a TV series or something one day, or they, for whatever reason, remake it. I am allowed to do that. I'm also allowed to write a sequel. So the answer is yes. I do still have rights to my story.
So, funny story, I actually did read that back in 2021. So
No way.
Yeah. So are you gonna keep writing short stories? And if you are, are you gonna keep posting them on online, or are you gonna make an anthology or something?
I love that you asked that. I love that you read the story. You read that before I was here. You read it when I published it, when I posted it.
I was crazy about short stories.
Wow, that is so cool. Well, anyway, yes. So the goal right now that my manager and I have set out is for me to be able to write full time. I'm not going anywhere right now, but we for sure are going to turn this into a career, hopefully. I'm already working on the next story. I actually just finished the first draft of it last night, and I'm very excited about that. And yeah, we're ready to keep this going. I have so many other ideas, and like I've been saying, I feel like I've improved a lot, and maybe I'll dip back into some older things that I wrote and revamp them or something. But yeah, no, this is not done.
Do you think that this movie will be in the movie theaters?
100%. So I won't say too much about this. I'll give you a little nugget of something. But there was a point in time during this process where we thought, hey, maybe this will be streaming, right? Maybe we'll go the Netflix route. And then we said, you know what? No, we want to do a theatrical release. So absolutely yes. Yeah, this will be in theaters for sure. And please go see it 10 times.
What's your favorite short story that you've written in the past?
That I've written myself? Oh, okay, I have it. So my job before I was here, I used to work, I told you guys, at that Nettle Middle School in Haverhill, and I taught an elective course, and we basically just, it was kind of a thing that was made up for me. My old principals were incredible and supportive, and you guys have used Kahoot. I think I've explained this to some of you guys before. I wrote this story in Kahoot, and in my elective course, the kids would come in, they'd all log into the Kahoot, we'd turn the lights off, I would read them the story, right? I wrote them into Kahoot like on the slides. And then every now and then a poll would pop up that would ask the class to vote on what the main character, right? I would read it as though you were the main character. You know, like, what do you want to do here? Do you want to go through this door or like go that way, whatever, it could be anything. What do you want to say to this suspect? And I would have like 4 different options of questions, and whichever option had the most votes, I would go to that slide. I also had music that I made up. I didn't write the music, but I took from video games, movies, TV shows. I made a Spotify playlist. I had my big speaker set, and I would play music. So basically, you were like controlling a movie in a way. I was basically acting this thing out. And it was a huge hit. I ended up doing it for years. And there was one, to finally answer your question in particular, that was the biggest hit, and it was one of those, it was a kind of like summer camp, culty type story where this, the main character, you, go to this summer camp that's owned by this like prestigious family in the area, and you start to learn that the things that they do, the games and the traditions, that they really, really believe in what they're doing there, and they believe in this thing in the woods that may or may not exist. And so that's probably my favorite one. It was called Burntwood, and maybe someday I'll revisit it. We'll see.
Can they actually read any of these right now, or?
Not the Kahoots, but like I said, for sure this missing girl story, I'll give you the good one if you want it. Please just email me, I'll send it to you. And then if you go on the short story subreddit, you'll see the sociopath sister one. It was number 1, I think now it's number 2. You'll see that there. But that's it. I do have one more that I would have to send you. I don't know if I posted it, but this will all be changing soon. Actually, can I tell you this? I can. I got a phone call last night from my manager saying that there are potential publishers or something that might be interested in really publishing some of these things. So maybe I'll have some real stuff for you guys soon.
Did you think at any point in time that any of your stories would like be published or blow up like this?
No, no, not at all. I mean, any of you who are creatives, you know, you look at your work and you're like, I think 99% of the time you think, this stinks, right? But like, there were some days where I actually felt pretty confident. There were some days where I used to do this thing where I'd pull a book off a shelf and just read the first page and just think, okay, all right, I can do that. I can do this. Those moments were rare. Most of the time I thought my stuff was trash, but I did think that maybe someday I could publish something, whether or not anyone would read it, you know, would I have any attention on it? Would Sydney Sweeney be starring in the adaptation? No, I never, ever thought that. Nope. It's like a literal daydream ripped out of my mind and playing out before me in real life.
Is there going to be like a part 2, like a second part to like the book or the movie?
Movie-wise, I don't know. All I'll say is that where I ended the short story, there can and should definitely be a continuation. But as far as the movie goes, maybe I, if I had to guess, think that they'll extend it from where I ended it. After that, I don't know. If I were to write it myself, like, could I continue it? Yeah, I could definitely. It could definitely use a second part based on where I ended the first one. But the movie might cover it itself. I don't know. I'm actually very excited to see what they do with it.
Who writes the script for the movie?
Yeah, so I mentioned him. His name is Eric Roth, and he's obviously everyone's very excited about Sydney Sweeney. I'm so excited for that. She's phenomenal. But I feel like this Eric Roth thing, this screenwriter, is something that goes under the radar a little bit. People should be equally as excited for him. I mentioned some of the movies that he's written. Forrest Gump didn't just write it. I'm pretty sure won an Oscar for it. That's like just a huge deal. And some of his other movies, while they hadn't won an award, were nominated. I mentioned Stars Born, Dune Part 1. If you just go through his movies, there are a ton of hits on there. So Eric Roth, I'm sorry you have to adapt my crummy little short story, but he's going to crush it, yeah.
What's the name of the movie?
Yes, so I laugh about the title. So if you were to find it on Reddit right now, the story is called I Pretended to Be a Missing Girl. Again, don't read that one. Read the other one I have. And I see people in the comments making fun of it, and it's so funny. I called it that because I wanted you, while you were scrolling, to pause and see it and know what it was about and think, oh, okay, I want to read this. That's all it was. It was just an attention grabber. Of course I know on its own it's a silly title. Of course I could have given it some traditional title. But I called it that on purpose. And it actually ended up working out because it was the reason that my now manager clicked it in the first place. What will the movie be called? I have no idea. I don't think they're going to keep that title. I think they'll give it a real title. I don't know.
So just some context to the class. They're actually working on short films currently. So
Love
they're
that.
doing special effects short films, but what advice would you give them? They're coming up with ideas and they're trying to do some writing for their films. What advice would you give them as young filmmakers and writers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing that I always tell people when this question gets asked, and it sounds so obvious, but it's just to write. It's so easy to write a page and hate it and scrap it, like I was saying earlier. It is so much better to have 100 pages of what you think is trash. And maybe it's not. It's probably not. But it would be better to have 100 pages of trash than even 1 page of gold. So that would be one thing I would say, is to just keep going, keep writing. The other thing too is, and because I used to think this, to write even if you don't feel like you want to in that moment. I used to only write when I felt super inspired after a good TV show or book or movie or video game, whatever it is. You almost have to treat it like homework. And I know that's hard for you guys because you literally have homework and I don't. But sometimes you got to just set time for yourself, sit down and actually write. And even if it's just a couple of lines that day, it's a couple of lines more than you had yesterday. And I feel that more often than not, you end up writing those couple of lines and then go do a little more, and then a little more and a little more. And so there's that. And the other thing too, I would say, is to not be afraid to share what you have. There's a whole, there are a bunch of writing communities, and most writers are happy to help or be supportive and whatnot. And then lastly, another thing is to focus or to remember to focus on, and again, this sounds so obvious, but characters, right? It's so easy to sit there and think like, oh, what's a fun premise about, like in my story, where you have this missing girl come home, but it's not really her. Like, ooh, yeah, I think it's interesting. But to really nail down your main characters and their motivations and their goals, focus heavily on the emotional part of it, and the premise should kind of tell itself and be around it. But you really gotta focus on the characters first, I would say. Did that help? I don't know.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned with your writing process?
That's a very good question. Try to think of something I haven't said yet. So, biggest thing I've learned. Oh man, my gosh, could be anything. I would say, other than the write your 100 pages of trash first. You'll hear the phrase "show, don't tell," right? I find that in a lot of my first drafts, I'm telling the reader things when you could show it through action or dialogue. That's a big one. I have a real legitimate creative writing process that's, I think, very simple that I would love to share with you. I think it would be silly to try to do it all right now to answer your question. But there's a resource that I've been following the last few years, a woman by the name of Savannah Gilbo. She's an editor, or I think she calls herself a book coach. That has been the most helpful resource. She's been incredible. She has a podcast too that she does in like 15-minute bursts on anything like dialogue and motivation and twists and whatever. But I would say, yeah, character motivation, like knowing what your character wants and why they want it. Once I started thinking in that sense first, because that's the reason why I think most writers get stuck. You stop writing because you're like, well, I don't know what happens next. Well, if you know what your character wants and why they want it, then you're not going to get stuck because you'll be able to drop them into any scene and know what they would want to do next. Does that answer the question? I have a whole, like a 5-step thing that I write at the beginning of every new story that I write. It's just 5 lines. I answer them, ready to go. You don't need to, some writers are the true plotters. They'll plot out the entire character's life. Like when she was 2.5, she had a dentist appointment. And then when she was 4, it's like, you don't need to know all that. Then you have people that are just what we call pantsers, that they don't plan at all and they just write. That was kind of me. What I do now is something in between, and it's been so helpful. And if you're interested, I will happily share it with you.
Why didn't you want the movie to be on Netflix? Why is there like a specific reason why you chose for it to be in theaters?
Money. Yeah, I think that's the real reason. I think there's a higher ceiling for revenue in a theatrical release. So, yeah, and look, if it had been on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or something, would I have been just as stoked? Of course, right? I didn't think that any of this would ever happen. They could have made some crappy TV movie and it would have been just the coolest thing ever. The fact that it's now going to be a Warner Brothers production in theaters, Sydney Sweeney, Eric Roth, and who knows who else, right? That's what I think, most looking forward to right now is when my manager shoots me that text, while I'm in Pace one of these days, and he says, hey, this actress is now involved. This actor's in, So, yeah, I'm excited.
Can you talk about the process? I know they hired you to be on set, correct? Is that true?
Yeah, so I will be an executive producer on the film. I will be on set. And I was joking before, if you were to ask me what that means, what that entails, I have no idea. I don't know, yeah.
Do you know where, the filming will take place? Have they released any of that information yet?
No, so we're still very early on. We need the script to be written first.
Where does the story take place?
The original takes place in Indiana. I think so does the revised version. It's in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, is where I set it. They'll likely change it. I don't know. Yeah.
Why Indiana?
That's a good question. I wanted to give the reader and the main character that sense of being trapped, right? She goes back to this family's house pretending to be their long missing daughter. Picture the house in the middle of these great fields. Their nearest neighbor is a dot in the distance. So I really wanted her to feel, once things kind of go awry, stuck, and to feel like, oh my God, what have I done? And so that was why, and then I think I happened upon Indiana kind of randomly, but I wanted it to be that desolate kind of place.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Route 18 stories.
No.
With the missing girls that happened back, I think it was back in the early 80s or so. I was wondering if that inspired you at all.
No, but there's one case that, well, actually, if you go on the comments of some of these videos and articles, there's one case in particular that people keep asking me if I was inspired by, but I wasn't. I actually hadn't heard of it. It's something in Austria or something. But no, there was one case closer to home for me in Haverhill, New Hampshire, a girl by the name of Maura Murray. And my character's name in the story is Michaela Murray. Half coincidence, half intentional. The real girl, Maura Murray, went missing in 2004. Right, I was a kid. I was, I think, 13. So I didn't know about it at the time. I've since learned about it. I know a little bit about it. I chose the name Michaela for my character because it was my friend and coworker's daughter's name, a girl that had been in my before and after school programs and summer camps for years, and I just picked her name. And then Murray sounded right. And I'll admit it's probably because of that case. But I in no way meant to it wasn't sort of any sort of commentary on that case or anything like that. It wasn't supposed to be related at all.
I just have a question about that girl you were talking about. She hasn't been found, right? Because there's been a documentary that I saw recently on her and like on how she still hasn't been found to this day.
Yeah, it's tragic. Maura Murray is still missing. It's a fairly popular case in the true crime circles. Obviously, tons of theories and whatnot. And while I'm super interested in that stuff, I don't like to try to guess or claim to know what happened or anything. I mean, it is fun to think about, but at the same time, we're talking about real people, a real girl who's missing, a real family who's grieving it still. But yeah, she's still missing.
No other questions? Just want to make sure. All right, so let's thank Mr. Cote for coming in today. And
Cote.
Cote, sorry. Cote. And there we go. Give him another round. So,
thank you guys. That was fun.